Hello and welcome to the Telegraph Studios and Business Reporter's Human Capital Campaign, hosted by the Telegraph Online. I'm Alastair Greener and today I'm going to be talking to Paul Healing from Project 7 about the ever-changing environment within the workplace. Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the hottest stories at the moment in the transport industry is this spat that's taking place over subsidies between Airbus and Boeing. So what makes a winner in that context?
Well, talent is the key. The ability of an organisation to harness human capital has always been and will always be the key differentiator in success, whatever that would be. Unfortunately, these organisations are struggling today with creating a clear and simple vision that can be translated into strategic objectives within a business, upon which the operating system, the way that business works, is created. And therefore they find it hard to identify and recruit and retain, and in some cases release, the right talent within their businesses.
You talked there about talent and attracting the right talent, yet it seems amazing to me that you're talking about the two biggest players in the industry. They're having difficulty attracting the best of the best. Why is that?
Well, unfortunately, there's still an attitude within the senior decision makers within these industries that is outdated and antiquated in relation to the workforce that we have today. Today's innovators and entrepreneurs within the aerospace industry, for them, title, salary and bonus has been replaced with autonomy, mastery and purpose as the key motivators for why they would join a company and stay with a company. Let me give you an example. Autonomy would be the ability to have a say in where I work, when I work and how I conduct the role. Mastery would be the ability to progress from novice to expert in my field and be recognised as the industry best, whether that is in a technical role or a leadership role. And purpose would be knowing that I'm engaged in an endeavour that has high aspirational principles. For example, we get engine technicians who say, I don't fit petrol pipes, I enable people to fly. Some organisations are taking this to an innovative degree, and that is, for example, chief engineers being allowed 25% of their time per week to work on anything they want to work on. It's called moonshine time. And what organisations are finding is they get 3 times the productivity in terms of new ideas in the 25% moonshine time than they do in the 75% normal work time.
Okay, so let's talk about these, what I would call soft elements, like moonshine time, to use your word there. Why or how are these becoming challenges for organisations to deal with?
Well, again, a lot of organisations start to look at performance within the business based on profitability, quality issues and delivery issues. They are output metrics or results. We need to change the lens through which these senior leaders look at their business and the way their business operates, to look at the inputs rather than the outputs. So if we look at and if we measured the number of people employed in waste elimination in the business each day, the number of people who are applying continuous improvement ideas and increasing productivity in their own jobs, we would get a change in the way that we design, when we meet, who we meet within the business and the actual operating system within that business. A lot of people say they focus on culture. What you've got to realise is culture is developed within an environment, and it's the role of senior leadership to create the operating environment that generates the high-performing culture.
Now there's another environment to consider here as well, and that's the legal environment. And talking about culture, of course, so much of that is going to be determined by the location. So how do you go about marrying up the two? So in other words, you've got people from different cultures, different locations now working together.
Well, whether you're working on an existing workforce that needs to change its current working conditions or operating in a totally new environment, or bringing those two groups together, which often happens in aerospace, there's a key to this, and that is stick with principles. What are the principles upon which the business operates, and define those principles before we move to writing the policies, procedures, the systems and tools required to operate the business. For example, it would be an inarguable fact, i.e. a principle, that most successful organisations are able to align the workforce to the corporate vision and engage that workforce actively in achieving that vision. Every employee would understand how their contribution counts, and the measurement of that contribution would be daily, not annually. Annual appraisals don't work.
And again, you know, you were touching on it there and you mentioned it before, this thing of changing attitudes. and it seems to be quite a core element of what you're talking about. So why do organisations find it so difficult?
It's not difficult in reality, and as soon as we get past that hurdle, that the issues related to profitability, quality and delivery are actually created by the inputs into the process, and we change that lens, senior leaders very, very quickly understand that human capital is the differentiator in performing systems. Very often we can have two aerospace or rail manufacturers operating out of the same countries, drawing the people from the same workforces, using the same infrastructure and tools and equipment to build, yet one organisation will be in profit and one organisation will be in loss. And when we look at the key difference, it's the way they coordinate the people and the way they think about the work that they do.
Okay, so let's look at the way they think about the people and what they actually do. What's the solution? How do we deal with that?
Well, there has been a lot of research and a lot of results out of that research now that indicate there is a DNA, a scientific DNA to creating the right operating system to achieve a high-performing culture. And that involves just a few simple steps. Articulate a simple vision that is inspiring. Get that vision to dictate the strategic objectives. Make sure there's a tiered visual management system within the business so those objectives are clearly communicated down and across the organisation. And also ensure that there is a short interval control processes. People are measured frequently and information flows back up the organisation. The key to this is creating an operating system where more people solve smaller problems, lower down the organisation more frequently.
Let's talk about Project 7 for a moment and what you do. Tell us first of all who you are, who the experts are behind you, and the sort of clients that you tend to work with.
We're a small bespoke company drawn from organisations such as Unilever and Toyota specifically. The reason we look for people from those organisations have been successful over many years in operating in new countries with new workforces and new or high rates of technical innovation within their businesses and remaining profitable. We've taken individuals who've run those businesses, have the experience of creating those environments where high performing culture has existed, and we've added the science to that, and that science is about organisational psychology, what motivates people in today's workplace, the organisational design required. Key to all of our specialists in our business is a focus on people plus process equals performance. If we want to increase performance in safety, quality, delivery, productivity, employee engagement and cost, it doesn't matter what processes we have in the business, it's humans that deploy those processes. We must develop human capital.
Now, developing human capital, changing attitudes and all the things you've been talking about is often something that takes time. So how do you deal with that in terms of the length of transition? How much time are we talking about?
I always remember people used to say lean transition takes 10 years. We find with a scientific experimental approach deployed through a pilot within a large organisation, say one facility of 400 people, we can quickly implement the operating system within 6 months and within 12 months be changing the needle on performance in terms of safety, quality, delivery and cost, for example. Once that scientific experiment is run and results are achieved, we then have the confidence to quickly roll that out across the rest of the organisation, no matter how big it is. We're currently employed with a major aerospace engine manufacturer with 27,000 people who are outsourcing to India, and we are 3 years into a transformation process, but we achieved results from day one.
Okay, you talk about results. How do you measure them? What's the definition of success as far as you're concerned?
Well, that's interesting because key performance indicators within businesses, the things that used to appear on corporate balance scorecards, are changing as people start to realise that to achieve profitability, we need to control operating cost and eliminate waste from our business. So we're seeing a change in the things that people measure, and measures drive behaviour, whether that's for senior leadership or a guy at the shop front. These measures now, for example, might include the profitability per human being employed, direct and indirect employees. It might be the amount of produce produced per cubic metre owned by a business. It may be the distance of a part travelling within a business before it reaches its point of sale. Those metrics are changing the way we organise ourselves, changing the way we design facilities, and most importantly, changing the operating systems within which people work each day.
Well, as you say, human capital is probably the basis upon which most organisations either succeed or fail. And it's been fascinating getting more of an insight into that. Paul Healing from Project 7, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.